Hello, this is another OpenSwoole video and I'm Savio. So today is the second part of our API sequence of videos, and today we'll go over JWT authorization. We'll refactor a little the application in the first part, and in the second part we'll implement the JWT authorization. Let's see. Here we are. This video will be divided in two parts. The first part is about refactoring our command structure. And the goal, as you can see in the screen, is we're going to refactor the command structure so we can add more commands. In this case, we're going to add a command to generate our JWT tokens. This will be done to facilitate our work on that and in the future. So the part 2 is going to be about the implementation of JWT authorization. And that's where we're going to authorize users to do what they need in the API according to the resources they have access to. So let's go to it. So first of all, let's look how our application handles commands right now. For example, we have our commands being processed right here, process commands. So these commands are something like, if the execution has happened to have some arguments in the console, in the command that is actually running this script here that we are handling, we will process that. Otherwise, we won't. So if we go to the process command method, we'll see in case the action, which is the first argument after the index.php, if that exists, and if there is any of those, actually if it doesn't exist, it will be null. So if it is different than null and is one of those, we'll handle those commands like this. Otherwise, we'll return false and we will be starting our HTTP server. So at this point, what we want is to evolve this to be handled by a closer structure of Symfony console. So you can go there. I will put in the video description to learn more about that library. But the first step here is to implement the console process. So the first thing, we won't run like this anymore. We will run like this. Process command, and the Swoole server won't be running from here. So this will cause that the HTTP server start itself is going to be another command in our application. So everything now is going to be through commands, and the command is going to start whatever we need. So one command will be the HTTP server command, and that will be a long-lasting command, and we'll probably in a production environment we'll be using supervisor to make sure that the process keeps working. At this point here, we won't pass any parameter. We can always access the app, because if we go back on the index.php, we have the global app declared there. It's a global. So whenever we start the app's available. I'm just passing here so I don't have to call the global in the other methods. As you can see, we don't need the request converter, but the request converter is going to be necessary in the Swoole server. This is why we were calling it here. But because the Swoole server is now going to be in a command, and the command is kind of behind a few layers, we will need this request converter to be available globally. So the request converter is not going to be an output of this method anymore, and we can simplify this to be a slim app return. And let's make the request converter a global object. So let's go here. And this way we'll be able to access the request converter in the other side. When we have a better option, we'll do it, but this moment, this might be the best option we have. So, okay, so we prepared this method. and we put the way we want, but this will break at this point. So I have some code prepared here. Let's go there. The way to start the Symfony console is through this. So what we have here is we are starting the console application, and then we run that application. So whatever command we are running, that command will be processed this way. So at this point, we don't need this anymore. We can get rid of it, and we are not returning Boolean anymore. We're returning void. Okay, so at this point, we are able to run consoles, but we don't have any command declared at this point. So our command line, we can see, for example, we have no commands, just the default commands of the Symfony console package, which is right here. Okay, so we have this Slim application ready. We have a bunch of stuff ready for us. Let's start by putting our first command. So our first command is going to be the HTTP server that we removed. So let's create a command. Let's create the HTTP server command. So the current Swoole server procedure is like this. We are going to move this behavior to a command. So let's create a directory called commands. And inside that directory, we will create the HTTP server command. So I have some code ready for us. Let's create HTTP server inside that namespace, and here it is. So let's go over what this is doing. So some package that we are using here. So the default, like we are extending the command, and this command, just for you to be sure, is Symfony components console command. So this command is what the Symfony console package is going to understand as a command because of this abstraction, and being that it will process everything that we need to be processed. For example, the default name. This is what it will grab from the command line and understands that this is the command that is running. So this is what we called previously the action. And the default description is just what shows when you want to know what this command is about. When you call something like the command line, the index.php now without any parameter. So if we go there, you'll see, for example, this is the description here of these commands. These are the commands that Symfony console already has out of the box. So this is our description. And here we configure. This command has no other argument or option. And then we execute. So we execute. This is another piece of the Symfony console library. And the Symfony style has some style prepared for you to output stuff. And then we start. This start is simply whatever we had here with a few improvements. The few improvements is just that I'm using this IO, this Symfony style, as the tool to write stuff to the command line. So let's see what we have there. So at this point, we can delete this Swoole server from the bootstrap because now we have the HTTP server command to run that for us. And here we import. First thing, we go here and check if the command is there. It is there. HTTP server starts HTTP server. So if we go here, there it is. Our HTTP server is running the way it was before. So at this point, everything is running as expected. At this part 2, we assume that you have installed a package, which is going to be in the description, called Firebase PHP JWT, which is this right here. And this package is going to help us with common tasks with JWT tokens. And the work here began at the bootstrap app file. And there we'll add a generate JWT token command. And this command is going to help us to generate JWT tokens, because we won't build a UI for that. We will be generating those JWT tokens via command line commands, and then we'll add them to our request and see the authorization being given to that request. So let's continue by actually implementing this command. So let's go there and create a class, and let's then put the code and explain what I have here. So the work here began with declaring the actioning of the command, like the default name, which is going to be what we put in the command line. And then the description here is a little different from what we saw in the part 1. And this is also implemented in the migrate command, which is we added some options here. And there we had the option fresh, for example. But here we added some options. So 2 of them are required and 1 of them is optional. So the required ones are the name of the JWT token. The second one is the user, which is going to be the user email that we are creating this JWT token for. And the third one, not required, is going to be the expiration date. Actually, it's going to be the number of seconds until the expiration. And then takes the procedure of creating this command. So I wrapped with a try catch just in case anything goes wrong there. And the implementation is in a separate method where we first grab the options, we find the user, we are assuming that everything goes right. So for example, the email is of an existent user in the system. We also assume that the email is a valid format of email, that there is a user email and a token name being passed, things like that. I'm putting as a to-do the validation of the inputs right here. And then we find the user, we set an expiration date. I'm using Carbon library, and I'm putting like the expiration date X number of seconds from the current date, and then the payload of our JWT token. And the payload of JWT token begins with, according to the RFC, which is the standard of it, is like a IAT, which is the time when the token was generated, adding a user ID, so I can identify who this token belongs to. And I'm also adding an expiration date in case it is passed in the command line. And then we go further and we encode that payload with the name and setting an algorithm for that. And then we persist in the database, and we do normal procedure. We check if the persistence is valid, so if it went through. If it didn't, I just throw an exception, which is again handled there, and then we display an error. Otherwise, we display success. Okay, if it's not quiet. And here is an important topic. Why I added this quiet here? I added this quiet because the Symfony console has a quiet option by default for every command passed. So the quiet actually is passed when you don't want the command to output anything in the terminal, and you have to handle it by yourself. So this is what I'm doing here. In case there is no quiet parameter being passed, I print. Otherwise, I won't. Okay? So that's what is happening here. And as you can see, here is already the next step of our implementation, which is the helper that we have right here. This is not part of the Firebase library. So let's go there and implement that class as a service. So help us implement this. So right here, we implement this class in the service directory. And I already have some code here ready for us. If you go there, this is basically, I'm setting the algorithm right here. And then we have the decode JWT token, which is basically going to call the JWT token decode and setting some standards there, so we don't have to keep this standards here in other parts of our application. I'm just centralizing everything in this service class. And then I get the token from a request object, which is a task that we will do in our middleware to authorize those requests. And then with this in hand, we have this implementation ready, so no error at this point. But now we have to add our token model, and our token model is going to be the database table where we keep the tokens generated. So we can, in another moment, verify, audit, and etc. We can use it to see if it's valid or not, things like that. So let's go there and create our model. PHP class token. I'm calling it token right now. It might be interesting to call it JWT token. Let's go there. Here it is, token stable. Everything is common. The fields that we need user ID, expiration date, token itself, and the name. And as you might be questioning, we don't have the migration. So we go there in the migrate. We have this migrate users. What we will do is we will add our migrate token. So if we go there, we can create something in the same way we have the migrate users prepared. So let's go there. Okay, so here we are, and this is going to be simply called at this moment right here. So whenever we execute the migration, we execute both now, and there it is. Just import this model, okay, and we create the fields. You can check this in the repository in a little moment, and basically we output in case there is no quiet, as you can see here. It might be a good idea also to add this quiet verification at the other migration as well, so we avoid whenever the user passed quiet to display anything that shouldn't be displayed. Okay, so let's see, in the case there's an exception, let's add the quiet here as well, and let's see the other commands. Okay, the seed also has some outputs happening. Okay, success as well, and here we don't have the input, so let's add the input. It's just a detail, so let's go there and add it right here. Now we have the input, and we can check if there is an option quiet in the command line input. So let's go there and generate a token. So PHP index, let's come here and grab this name. So there is a problem with the my class generate token not found. So I'm not importing these at this moment right here. Okay, so let's go there again. Okay, there was an error, generate token key must be string and using h. Okay, so now we have the errors or the options coming up. So basically we go there and say name equal token name, and then we go here and add the user at example.com. Now we have another exception, which is an error that we didn't run the migrations. So let's go there. Table already exists, token table already exists. So what else wrong? Okay, it seems that it couldn't find the user, so let's see. Okay, seeded. Didn't need to, so let's generate again. worked, it was not seeded, so it was empty. The users, it couldn't find the user. Those are the errors that we might avoid when we start to use the validations. But at this point, everything's working as expected. And we have, let's go here and add our middleware, right? To start the work. So let's go there and add our middleware. So this middleware doesn't exist yet. So let's go there and let's create this middleware. PHP class middleware, and this middleware, I already have some implementation for it. Okay, so it's basically going to do whatever the other middlewares are doing, but actually has the same structure as the other middlewares, but is going to get the token from the request using our helper, the helper that we created. And then we have the token, which I'm calling auth. If there is a JWT token, we go through. If there isn't, we get stuck here and we unauthorize, we block the request from moving forward. Right now, as you can see, we are not validating if this user has the X ability, let's call like this. And what we're doing is just verifying if there is a valid, not expired JWT token. So now we can go back on our routes, import the class, and this route should be protected. So at this moment, might be a good idea to run tests and see what we get there. Just to go back to remember what we had there, we simply are doing a HTTP request, that endpoint, and we are getting the users available in the system, okay, a list of users. And what we want is this request to not to be able to be done without a token. So this request should be failing right now. So let's go there and see. Okay, it failed. To begin with, actually, it failed because we didn't update our test case. So let's go there and update our test case, because our test case is actually using the old structure of our commands. So let's go there and call our commands. So to begin this project, this process, let's add a method here that will help us to execute commands from here. So we don't have like to see the database before running the tests, and the tests are going to be run the migrations and seeders by itself, okay? And then we go and we replace the current old command structure with the new ones. So we run the migrate and we run the seed and we run them quiet and we run them the migrate fresh. So it's going to delete and replace whatever we have there. We didn't use old structures. And now there is one more step here, because this here is actually bootstrapping our app, right? So the tests are actually working with the context that it needs to. There's one thing missing here. We refactor our application to handle commands. So even the HTTP server is a command. What we want right now is to prepare this application context. So for that, I'm simply going to add the application context, because otherwise not even these commands are going to work. So let's go there. Here it is. We have our application commands. I'm using the global, so we have to go there in the bootstrap PHP unit file and add them there. And what I'm doing here is I'm adding the commands to the console application, and that's all to it. And I'm doing this for the global application. So if we go there, bootstrap PHP unit, we're saying, okay, this application is also global. And there's something here. I have to double check because I didn't add this application as global as well there. Now it is. Okay, so there it is. We are initializing our console application. we have our migration running, and that should be enough. If we go here, let's see our test failing for the right purpose. Still not right there. Let's see, test case line 50. Test case line 50, okay. Run command. Oh, we didn't call this right here. So this is going to be called right here. Okay, so let's go there again. Okay, now it's for the right reason. Fail with a 401 error exception, which is unauthorized. So our middleware is actually working. So let's go there and fix that test. So let's go there and add the JWT token. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the command here, because now we have the helper, as you could see in the test case. So now we have this helper available anywhere in our tests, because we're extending this test case. So now let's run the same command that we're running on command line to generate the token before the request happens. So let's go there and run like this. So I'm running the command and I'm passing the options. I want it quiet so it doesn't like show anything during the tests. So here I'm assuming that there is a user. So the user is being added by the seeder. So I simply add it. So let's just grab the first one. Find the user one. Okay, and this user will be available here. Now I have a token. So let's go there and grab the first token for this user. So let's go there and refresh the user and grab the first token of this user. And now we will add a header to our request. So before the get, we add a header. And this header is going to be authorization, bearer, and the token. So now this should pass. See? It didn't. Called one member function first on no. So let's see. Tokens. Oh, I don't. These tokens here assumes that we have a token relationship right here. So let's go there and add. So public function, which is an eloquent functionality, right? So token return this has many token class. Okay, so now all passing. So what happened is that let's go back to our test to explain. We are grabbing all the tokens related to this user, and we are grabbing the first and then grabbing the token itself, the string, adding a header, and now this request is authorized. So if we just want to test to make sure that the response is 401, we can do something like this. Test can get users without authorization. Can't, right? Can't get users without authorization. So we make the request without the headers, make sure that the assert status is 401. So let's go there and see if everything is working. Everything is working. All done. Tested. We are authorizing our endpoints right now. So in the next video, we'll be talking about further steps to improve our API.